Hello and welcome to Popcorn Dreams. You can see that I'm now sat on my sofa, and that can mean only one thing. It means we're doing a movie marathon, and today we're starting our new playlist with something very special. We are going to watch the theatrical cuts of the original Star Wars trilogy.
20th Century Fox and George Lucas, the man who brought you American Graffiti, now bring you an adventure unlike anything on your planet. Star Wars.
Now, I haven't seen these films since around about 1995, and when they were re-released on DVD, I bought the special editions rather than the original cuts, and that's because I was about 16 and very stupid, and I've regretted it ever since. Growing up, the Star Wars films were always shown on British TV at Christmas, so I got to watch Jedi a lot, Empire a little bit, and actually Star Wars is the one that I've seen the least. I didn't actually see Star Wars until I was about 13 or 14. So, last week I decided to take the plunge, and I went on a deep dive through eBay and Amazon, and I finally found special DVD box set that has both the original cuts and the first versions of the special editions.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all. Now, for its 20th anniversary, the adventure of a lifetime returns to the big screen in a way you've never seen before.
There'll be no one to stop us this time.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
With newly enhanced visual effects,
They're coming in too fast!
THX and digital sound, and a few new surprises.
Hanabuki. Barbonyanda. This will be a day long remembered.
The Star Wars Trilogy, Special Edition. See it again for the first time.
The Force will be with you, always.
In preparation, I watched the latest versions of the special editions, complete with cluttered scenes of CGI bits and pieces everywhere, and even Darth Vader going at the end of Jedi. I watched those last week so that I was ready to have a proper comparison with the original cuts this week. So let's jump straight into it and watch Star Wars.
Here they come. Coming in too fast!
Star Wars.
Right, so I've just finished watching Star Wars, and I think there's two things that really jumped out at me immediately. The first one is that on Tatooine, there's like a lot more atmosphere. Little bits where R2-D2, for example, is being tracked by the Jawas before they immobilize him and then steal him. That has some genuine tension to it. I'm not sure whether they changed the music or whether they just messed around with like placement of rocks and added a few extra cuts and cleaned up the sweeps. I'm not sure, but it felt more tense in this version. In fact, everything on Tatooine felt like it had more atmosphere, and I think that's the key element about the difference between the new versions and the originals that I felt, and that was just pure atmosphere everywhere. Everything, it feels real. It doesn't feel digitized. It feels like a film from the 70s. So I can understand why Lucas would want to go back and change things and remaster it. And I'd have no problem if he went back and he just cleaned up the lighting and the shots. But adding things really detracts from the film in places. The Jabba the Hutt scene actually ruins the pacing of that whole sequence. Without Jabba the Hutt, you've got Han shooting Greedo. You've got them getting to the ship, the stormtroopers finding them going off, them taking off, they're at the Death Star, bang, bang, bang. It moves really quickly, it moves really efficiently, and it works really, really well. Chucking that scene in there, well, it was deleted for a reason, and it's purely down to pacing. The other thing that I took from it was that later on, when you've got the TIE Fighters versus X-Wings fighting over the Death Star, the movement you can see is a lot slower because you can tell that it's a miniature. You can tell that it's a model. But that doesn't detract from it in any way. In fact, I was more engrossed by it. I was buying into it a lot more, even though the effects weren't as slick. And the other thing that's strange is, obviously, when I was young, just like everybody that liked Star Wars, I wanted the toys that went with the films. But I've not felt that need for 20, 30 years now. And I felt it for other things. I've wanted to collect memorabilia from things like Alien, or even from the Marvel movies. I've been tempted to buy like a Hulk from Sideshow Collectibles or an Iron Man suit here or there, but never for Star Wars. But today, looking at that fight, looking at those ships, and seeing that, being able to see that they're genuine miniatures, I just found myself sitting there going, that looks really cool. I kind of want to go buy one of those. It happened twice. It happened once with the X-Wings when they're lining up ready to go and engage the Death Star, and it also happened when the Y-Wings were going down through the trench to do their bombing run. Having seen that, I remember why I really loved that movie before. Yeah, I think George Lucas has done real damage to his own movie. Even though he's made small changes here or there, really, I think he's detracted from the whole presentation. Right, so that's Star Wars done. Let's move on to The Empire Strikes Back and see how we feel at the end of that movie.
Now, the creators of the biggest smash hit of all time bring you the next episode in the Star Wars saga, The Empire Strikes Back. Continuing story of our band of heroes: Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, C-3PO, R2-D2, and Chewbacca. And introducing Lando Calrissian. A big, new, sprawling space adventure in the Star Wars saga, The Empire Strikes Back. Coming to your galaxy next summer.
So we've just finished watching The Empire Strikes Back. You can really see that they had a lot more money for that film than they had for the first one. The jump forward in effects is very obvious as well, but it doesn't lose any of its charm. It doesn't lose any of its ability to draw you in, story-wise. You still care about the characters. I think in comparison, I think this is probably the film that had the least changes. I might be wrong about that, but the initial feeling I have is that it doesn't look that different. The comparison between this one and the first one, though, is you can see the ships, particularly the speed that they fly through space and that they fly around planets and things. You can really see the speed difference, and you can see that the effects have stepped up considerably. The original theatrical versions are calmer, quieter films. I mean, I know it's still an action movie and it's still science fiction movie, and so obviously there's a lot of things going on, but there's less stuff on the screen all the time. There's less things happening and distracting. The original cuts, you feel more involved with the story, and I'm pretty sure a lot of that is because it's there's a purity to it, without filling up the screen with sort of silly robots doing weird little things and little moments here or there. I can see the desire to upgrade the effects, and especially when it comes to the lighting and the sets that some of the things are shot on. Certainly in the Millennium Falcon, with the shot behind Han and Chewbacca looking through past the dashboard out into space, it does look, certainly in the first film, but even in Empire to a degree, it looks like a TV set. It looks like a little bit like the holiday special. What a wonderful treat that is as a show. I can see the desire to improve that, but I still don't think it's justified. And even when you get to Bespin, you've got the Cloud City. Some of those sets again they look their age. They look just barely a step up from, say, something like Flash Gordon's sets. They do kind of look a little bit cheap in places. But it just doesn't matter. None of those things matter, because that's not what it's about. It's all about the characters and how well written what is happening, even if the dialogue is clunky in places. But actually, even having said that, the clunkier parts of the dialogue, I don't notice it as much. In the newer editions, I notice it a lot more. There's some truly cringe-worthy sentences that are said by various characters, and in the special editions, I really noticed that. But watching these now, I don't notice it. They are definitely, already, without having watched the third one yet, I can say they are as special as I remember them being. And I'm already very happy that I've bought them, even though they cost quite a lot because they're in quite high demand. On to the third of our films for tonight's movie marathon. On to Return of the Jedi.
Return for the climactic clash between the forces of good and evil. Return to a galaxy far, far away. Return of the Jedi. The next chapter in the continuing Star Wars saga. The battle for freedom rages on. The heart of a hero. The courage of a rebel. The strength of a leader. An epic of heroes, villains, and aliens from 1,000 worlds. It's a crap! The saga lives on. Return of the Jedi.
So, we've just finished Return of the Jedi. And that's the film that I think, even though the first film has like a whole extra scene added to it, I feel like Return of the Jedi has the most changes made to it in the special editions. And if I'm honest, through all three films, I cannot see any of the changes that they made that really adds anything to the movies. Yeah, they look a little bit nicer. Yeah, they look a bit cleaner. Some of the effects are a bit more crisp. But I think at the end, I feel like all of them take away from the films themselves. And that's because by cleaning them up, they become sanitized. They become more bland. They lose some of the character. They definitely lose some atmosphere. And I just think it's just putting distractions on the screen, either because of a scene that doesn't really fit in the story, or an effect that doesn't look like it should be there, little bits like extra buildings put in the background of some of the end of Return of the Jedi, or just people being changed in the cantina scenes. The song and dance number in Jabba's palace, which is awful. The original one is so much better and fits really well with both the aesthetic and everything that's going on. I think the biggest crime of the special editions is that it's pure ego. It feels, because the first one and the last one have the most changes, and it seems like Lucas wants to elevate those two movies to the height of Empire. But the truth is that the three work as a cohesive whole. Yes, everyone says that Empire is the best, and when it comes to the technical elements and the critical elements of storytelling within movies, yeah, it is the best one. Certainly the most interesting character-wise. All three of them, though, have problems, but when you put them all together, and at the end, when Luke feels like his emotions have betrayed Leia, and he ignites his lightsaber and he starts wailing on Darth Vader, and the choral music rises, you get that swell of emotion, you get that gut reaction. But it's heightened in the originals compared to the more bland, generic, more cleanly presented special editions. It's been 25 years, 26 years since I last watched these films, and the whole process that Star Wars has gone through in that time has chipped away at my love for the whole series that I really felt when I was younger and when I was a teenager. I was so excited about the prequels coming, and to have these films in their original versions back in my possession, and to have the opportunity to sit and watch them with their flaws, with their slightly janky effects here and there, with their character and their personality, it means a lot. And I honestly don't think I'll ever watch any of the other Star Wars films again, and I don't think I'll ever watch the special editions again. Now that I have those three, they are the films for me. And I know I just sound like your average cynical movie reviewer on the internet, but truly the heart and the drive that got the films made in the first place is missing when everything is sort of sanitized, wiped over, bits are added again. It's films in their original release should be protected somewhat, I think. If directors want to change things, that's fine, but the original version should always be available. Star Wars is such an important thing to an entire generation of people who love film. It matters. I hope that Disney will take one of the original cuts on DVD or film or whatever they have, and then release it properly as a Blu-ray, if only just to maintain it, because those DVDs, they will wear out, they will break, they will get damaged for one reason or another, and then there'll be a day when those DVDs aren't there. So I hope that those original films will be upgraded to Blu-rays just to keep them around and available a little bit longer, if only so that people like me who grew up with these films and loved them will always have the true magic of those movies to keep with us all the time. So thank you for watching along with me, watching the original Star Wars trilogy for the first time in 20 odd years. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, like, share and comment below. Tell me what you think. Do you think that cleaning up the original films sanitizes them and makes them more bland? Or do you think that it's fine and George Lucas should be able to do whatever he wants with his films? Let me know in the comments. I read them all and I reply to most of them, and I will see you next time on Popcorn Dreams.